welcome to Good Morning Black People with your host, Morgan Reese. And I have my amazing guest, my intelligent, one-of-a-kind, unique type of guy, YP Thomas, here with me today. YP Thomas has inspired thousands of students at high schools, HBCUs, and universities across the country, delivering impactful messages and purpose of leadership and greatness. YP is also a dynamic and compassionate public speaker with the niche to help individuals heal from the deep emotional and psychological effects of molestation. With the powerful story of resilience and transformation himself, he has spent years empowering survivors to reclaim their confidence, self-worth, and purpose. Again, welcome, YP. Thank you for joining my show. This is Good Morning Black People with your host, Morgan Reese. And I am so honored. I'm grateful that you took out the time to join me. So we're just going to jump right in. So YP, tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're from and all that great stuff.
So, man, I am Christopher, born Christopher Thomas, but I go by YP Thomas. There's a story behind that. Okay. But I'm born and raised in Statesville, North Carolina, a little small town here in North Carolina, a couple of miles north of Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
And
I know where's that.
Yep. Son of a pastor and a bishop. My father was a pastor for many, many years, over 30, 40 years. And
your PK kid.
And son of Bishop Sam Thomas and Karen Thomas. And my dad was the bishop of Statesville Covenant Cathedral, for over 36 years. Grew up, typical PK life, in the spotlight, limelight, played football all my life, ended up, being able to go to college to play football on a scholarship at Winston-Salem State University, SU, and graduated from there. And I started working with youth. And I went from working with youth, and I went into the banking industry, into the mortgage industry. And then I ended up back into working with youth in the school system. And many endeavors from there, became a public speaker, or took the craft of public speaking seriously in about 2017, about 2017. Okay. And I've been preaching since 2000. I was 23 when I started. So now I'm 39. Lord have mercy. So you talking about.
Well, look, I'm in my preaching, so you ain't even there yet. You still
oh my goodness. I'll be 40 in August. Lord have mercy. But
God's grace that you'll be able to see 40.
Right. Started speaking, really tuning into my destiny and my call, with, encouragement, being able to encourage, inspire, and motivate the masses. And then I wrote a book in 2017 called Go Be Great, the 14 principles to increase your greatness. And that's kind of what sprung the speaking opportunities and being able to speak to colleges and high schools, universities, nonprofits, churches, companies, organizations, and all these things. And then, I'll start to tell my story and about being molested, how I overcome the trauma, the transition of my life from 2021 till now. It's just an ongoing story. So, there's a lot of layers, to Chris Thomas and YP Thomas. And at the end of the day, man, I take the pride and the pleasure of being blessed with a gift to motivate, inspire, and encourage people, and take them to different levels in their thinking, and help them recognize they have the power to be and accomplish anything they set their mind out to accomplish, and realizing they can use that power to help inspire other people at the same time.
Amen. Boy, I tell you, you definitely got a call and an assignment in your life. The same here. So we're just going to jump right in. I too am a survivor. I call it an overcomer and a conqueror.
Yes. Yes.
4 times, but for a male's perspective, if you don't mind sharing a little bit of when it happened, or what took place, because I was watching your platforms and you said it wasn't from a woman, it was from a man.
Yeah. And
even people who say that it happened from a woman, they still, they say, "Oh, you a man? How you just let this happen?" Yeah. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit of your your journey when this incident occurred?
So, it started when from my recollection, I can say what I remember, right? It was about 8 or 9 till I was about 11 years old. And it was somebody that was close to the family. And that's usually how it is when you study, the cases and the numbers and all the nuances of people surviving being molested. It's usually a close person in the family or a family member. So, my experience was different because I had no idea what was really happening. I could say now being older, I knew something was wrong and it wasn't right, but I couldn't identify exactly what was going on. It wasn't until I became married in the thick of my marriage when the trauma of it started to reveal itself as stronger and stronger and stronger. And I realized, I lacked self-esteem. I lacked identity. I lacked a sense of purpose. I lacked confidence. I needed to be accepted. I needed validation. It was a laundry list of things that I was affected by. And I said this in another podcast I did, and I posted it as a video too. We think the remnants or the post, traumatic stuff that we deal with and the issues are parallel to the act. They're not. A lot of things we deal with have nothing to do with the acts of sex or those type of things. It is not parallel. It's self-esteem stuff, it's relational stuff, trusting people, knowing how to have proper relationships, knowing how to respect the boundaries of relationships. I mean, it's a deep dive. And in my experience, it blew up in my life, in my marriage. Across my platform, I've always been very transparent about not dealing with the trauma of that and how it blew up in my marriage because, I didn't respect the vows of marriage because, I needed attention. So I would seek attention from other women because I was violated by a man, still trying to prove something to little Chris that didn't need to be proved. But that was because the trauma hadn't been dealt with. And I say this all the time, you have to deal with the trauma before the trauma deals with you. Because either way you go about it, you're going to have to face that trauma and you're going to have to deal with it. And I think one of the realities we don't realize is if you don't deal with the trauma will go to your generation.
Generational curses.
You got kids, you got loved ones, you got cousins or little nephews and nieces that you brought into your home and you're like a mother figure or a father figure to them. If you don't deal with the trauma, you will pass that trauma down to your kids too. So, when I became divorced and was really separated, and then, I had a major medical scare, having a stroke. When I got to that point in the lows of lows, that's when I had to say, wait a minute. We're not supposed to be losing this much, what's going on? And that's when I started to really deal and dig into the trauma. And that was my experience, and now I can speak about it and talk about it. I didn't tell my parents until I was 35 years old, and that's when the freedom and the knowledge of what happened and the recollection and understanding what happened, and then being able to get to the root of, issues that I had that I didn't know why I had them. Right. And that was my experience. And as a 39-year-old man now, I still have the remnants and I still have the bruises and the scars and the sensitive points and places based upon that trauma. Now I just can manage it better. Notice I said better. I didn't say I manage it well, right? I manage it better.
Exactly. And God give you the tools in your tool belt to help you manage it better. That's part of that process of deliverance and healing, which a lot of people who's been through those traumas won't take out the time, especially the older generation.
Yes.
Because I am thinking, let me ask you this. When you divulge this information to your parents, especially your father, how did he respond and react to you from man to man?
He was really receptive of it. I think he was angry. He of course wanted to know who and how it happened and all these things. But I think also because he saw the peace that I had in being able to talk about it. I think my father realized, okay, you've really done the work to deal with this. Me being angry or flying off the handle, what does it benefit, right? But of course, when I told him and my mom, they were very, frustrated and very angry. And I'm sure on their end, they questioned themselves. Did they protect me enough? Did they, where did they drop the ball? But my father specifically, he handled it well, and he handled it like any other father would. Of course, he's going to be upset and mad. But I think me being able to reassure him that I was okay, I think that helped the blow be a little bit softened for him specifically, and my mother too. My mother took a heart too. She cried. She was very, very emotional about it. But I just had to reassure them, like, hey guys, I'm okay. I can finally talk about it now. And because of that, I'm good. And now I can take my story and help other people that are suffering in silence. And not that you got to tell everybody your business and you got to go into details and you got to do what I have done and make a platform that talks about that. But you definitely have to be able to, tell your survival testimony. Because I also believe from a spiritual standpoint, whatever you cannot talk about and whatever you cannot freely speak on when it's a proper time to do it, the enemy always has that string to be able to pull on you. And
mess with your mind and say, oh, see, open your mouth, you done said something now, you done cause problems amongst the family. Because I know when I shared my journey of going through that, a whole nother can, Satan was dipping in, and he'll do that, especially when you are a man, because as a man, you're taught to be strong. You're taught to not be vulnerable. You're taught to not show your weakness. And when you share something so personal, not just with your family, but now you're sharing this with the world. Let me ask you this from your perspective, do you feel that that's why we have a lot of gay men in this world, because they are afraid to share those things happening? Because my personal opinion, and spiritually wise, I know that's why a lot of the men are gay, because they had some sort of trauma. They were taught, because I remember when I was younger, and this little boy, his name was Spider, in my aunt's neighborhood, and he was gay. And I was like, and they're saying you're born that way. God created a man and woman. He didn't create man and woman with gay tendencies. He didn't create man and woman with some thoughts of, I'm a woman, I'm gonna mess with another woman. I'm a man. I know this is all Satan's plan. Satan's issue. As a man, do you see more in your journey of helping other men heal, and women, but more men? Do you see it more of the men are the ones that are the gay?
Okay. You cracked up in a second, but I think I think your question was, do in my journey, do I see my story being able to help men identify, right?
Yeah.
And do I think that is a cause of why men maybe turn to homosexuality?
Yes.
I absolutely do believe that is a cause of why men do turn to homosexuality. I question mine, of course. When you're young and it happens to you as a young man, and you are you don't know what's going on, you don't know what's happening, and then as you get older, you realize what happened to you, and you realize what they perceive that to mean and what they perceive that to be. If you do that with another man, right, and something happens like that, I do believe that is a struggle, right? I think there's a couple of layers to it. I think some of them turn to it because that was their experience and it happened so drastically and so early. They just became attached to the feeling of being with the same sex, right? I do also think that society bashes or makes fun of or has put a extremely dark cloud over people that have been molested to where you think that's what you're supposed to be because that happened to you. And I think uh, some men may even be on the down low because it did happen to them. So they do have an attachment to it happening to them, and they continue to want to experience it in a way because there's a soul tied to it, which is let me be clear when I say this, which is entirely not their fault. No one told this sick person to touch them the way they touched them.
Right.
No one told them somebody to victimize a child and open them to that lifestyle anyway.
Amen.
So it's not a fault of the person, but I do believe it contributes to them turning. Now, some of them, they just choose that lifestyle just because they chose that lifestyle. But I think it does play a part. And I do believe from the standpoint of my story and me being open about my story and talking about my story, it is going to reach some men that may turned to homosexuality because they thought they had to, or because they thought they were because of what happened to them. I questioned mine, but when I got to high school, I was like, okay, like I am not gay. Like clearly I'm not that. Like I just had something really sick happen to me, and it has affected me. But I'm not attracted to men, and I'm not homosexual, right? But I can say I'm one of the ones that realize that, right? But in my talking with other men and my story being so open, I have had brothers, DM me and hit me up, and I've had one-on-ones and consultations and life coaching sessions with men. It was like, man, I question it, and I don't know, like, am I not? And I'm not the one to tell you if you are or if you're not because of what happened to you. You have to identify that, and I can lead you to a path, down a path that I took that led me to my realization and my enlightenment of what the trauma did to me, but it didn't make me. Right. It didn't make me choose this lifestyle. And you have to answer that for yourself. So to answer your question, yes, I believe it contributes to the men that maybe choose that lifestyle, to some, not all. And yes, my story, I prayerfully and intentionally hope it does touch those men that are questioning or did choose that, but they're really not. They just think they have to be because they were a victim of molestation.
I'm Morgan Reese, inviting you to tune in weekly for some empowering, enlightening, and embracing conversations to kickstart your day on Good Morning Black People. Yeah. You said it affected your marriage a lot. Was it more so because, as you said, you were trying to figure out your identity because this happened? You like, I'm a man at the end of the day. I know who I like. I know what I like. Did it lead you to be more promiscuous, or did it help you, or did it say, well, I'm with this person because I know I'm supposed to be with this person. I married this person because I know I'm supposed to marry this person for whatever reason. But while I'm with this person, I still not satisfied. I'm still not happy.
Yes.
I still have other, those spirits are still, leading me to go the other direction.
Yeah.
As far as being more promiscuous. Because I know with women, we either traumatized where we're afraid or we become more promiscuous. I know that was with me. I was more promiscuous.
Yeah.
Before I began my healing.
100%. I always say this. The problem never becomes the problem when the problem became the problem. We always think when something becomes a problem, it became a problem then. No, there is a long paper trail before it became a problem. The seed of the problem was planted a long time ago. So that me being molested was something that happened when I was 9 to 11. It didn't blow up until I was 34 into my face. The problem is never the problem when the problem, starts. It's always something that happened before. So for me, when I got to college, that's when the habits and routines were starting to be built. Because when I got to college, there was a joke made at me that it insinuated, I was gay in a joking matter, completely joking matter. But not knowing my story, not knowing my trauma, right? It triggered something. And I can remember exactly what I said. I was like, okay, you think I'm gay? All right, I'm about to smash everything I possibly can, right? And just being
keep it
honest, that's what my mindset was. And then I was a PK. So there's levels, right? So let's build it all up. I'm a PK. I have a shelter around me. Now, my parents didn't lock me into the house and let me go nowhere. I had freedom and space to do things.
Free will.
I had rules. I have a curfew. I couldn't do certain stuff on my other friends could do. So I was sheltered to a sense. When I got to college, that shelter is gone, right? And then I struggled. I never had sex in high school because I just was scared to because of church and all that good stuff. So, my parents did a wonderful job of raising me to be abstinent and not have sex and try to wait to marriage. They did. But once I flew the coop and got to college, it was over. It was on and popping. You know what I mean?
It was over. You're like, look. My man right now.
It was on and popping once I got to college, and then what happened, like, see, this is where you have to pay attention, and you only get this kind of wisdom, discernment, and understanding of your trauma when you face it and you really look and you start to dig and ask questions and begin to really try to find the root and the heart of the matter. Right. So when I got to college, in high school, I was never the guy, oh my God, he's fine. Oh my God, I want him. I was the friend guy that was cool and like a brother in the friend zone guy, right? I was never that guy that you would just say, okay, oh my, I want to talk to him. So I didn't get that kind of attention. When I got to college, the first, girl that I thought was really attractive and fine, the first time she reciprocated that and thought I was fine, I became an attention.
You like, oh, she liking me, I'm liking her. It's on and popping. I think we have a little technical difficulty. He should be returning shortly. Okay, there we go.
Okay, I just became an attention hoe, right? I loved that attention. One, I didn't get it, right? I was molested, right? So I'm already have these self-esteem and self-worth and these issues. I need validation. I need to be accepted. I need you to like me. I need that's just in general. But now we talk about from a relationship and romantic standpoint, like I want that feeling. I was an attention junkie. I wanted to feel that attention. So that became a pattern, right? And I started to see friendships, relationships, situationships, whatever you want to call them. I began to see them as a source of validation and not as people. And what would happen is when you stop to validate me, or I don't feel like you validate me anymore, I move on to the next source of validation. So I'm not even cherishing the friendship and the relationship between two humans. I just need you to validate me. So we go from a romantic standpoint. When I don't feel like you validating me anymore, I want to move on to the next attention. Who could give me attention? Who can tell me I'm fine? Who can tell me I look good? Who could tell me? Who could do that? As a friend, when I feel like you don't validate me anymore, okay, who's gonna tell me I sing good and I do who gonna do that? Who's the next person? Who's the new that bliss of the newness of the relationship, right? So that was a pattern. Then I get married, and you think you can pray the pattern and habit away.
And you can't.
You can't pray that habit away, and you can't pray that pattern away. You got to work to do that. And the only way you could do that is the trauma, because the trauma makes you become something that God never intended you for you to become.
Because he knew who you were before you were formed in your mother's womb.
You are who you are, and you're that way for a reason. The trauma and the experiences and the things we go through make us shape a different person and become something God never intended for us to be. He never intended for me to have attention. He never intended for me to have validation from a woman. He never intended for me to have low self-esteem and lack of self-worth. The trauma did that, right? That was a seed that was planted. So 32, 33, 34-year-old Chris is getting caught having conversations with other females by his wife. Because I want validation. I want to feel good. I want to see if I still got it. I want to do this because I'm not secure in the man that I am. Because little Chris was never secure in the boy that he was. So how can the man be secure in the man that he was? So that's why I say the seed was planted a long time ago. And what happens with us when we get to be adults, we don't process our childhood in our adulthood. And that's why we have a lot of people committing the same traumas, experiencing the same things, inviting the same spirits of people in their lives, thinking they're changing, the same situations, the same lifestyle, the same, because you're not realizing what happened in your childhood made you who you are. And you're not facing the trauma so you can see what worked and what didn't work. And what you need to get away from and what you need to attach yourself to. And it's so much bigger than the trauma that happened. You got to go past that paper trail and see, where did it start? My marriage blew up when I was 11, not when I was 34. Because I never handled the trauma from 11 to 34. And that's why I say, you better deal with that trauma or that trauma gonna deal with you.
Wow. I guess I definitely was different with that one, because I was the opposite. I was the one that was asked a lot of questions. I want to know why did this happen? How did you let this happen? Or when I told you didn't do anything, or because I remember, okay, so mine was when I was, the first one when I was about 10, 11, and the next one about 12, 13. Then the next one when I was 21. And I was like, okay, I'm grown now. Nobody gonna mess with me now. I'm a grown woman, I'm strong, in my mind. I was like 120 soaking wet, and in my mind, I'm like, I'm strong now. I can fight these people off. They do something to me then. And then it happened then. And then it happened again, I got a little older, and I was like, what is it? So with you, have you finally went back to the generational curse, the generational cycle of trauma? Because that was, like, I learned now as I finally, mending relationships with my dad. Unfortunately, he passed. With my mom, I asked those uncomfortable questions of, what happened to you, or how did it happen to you, or who it happened to in the family. And, we are sharing that information. When you go back to the generational curses and trauma, how do you try to implement that in your current living of life now to still say, look, I'm on this healing journey, I'm on this deliverance journey, it's been rough, but now I'm learning more things of this was happening prior to. And it happened to be, I happen to be the one, because Satan only attacks the ones he sees is greatness. He knew we were greatness. He knew we were greatness again before we were formed in our mother's womb. But he's hoping that all the things that he throw at us and he attack us with, and it's mainly going to be our mind. How did it impact you over your generation of bloodline?
Yeah.
To get to where you at now.
So, I know from just, my mom's side of the family, my dad's side of the family, I can't say there's been molestation. I don't know that. But I can say there was I guess was promiscuity.
Promiscuity,
right,
yes.
Right, bro. I know that it was a source, and that was something that was an issue coming down the bloodline, right?
Part of the Jezebel spirit.
Right. So I did, I asked my mom, I asked my dad, and we talked about that because, my thing was, why do I have this need and this thorn in my side to need attention? And what's this woman thing in me? And I had to ask that because it was like, you didn't realize it's a real problem when you don't want to do something and you still go do it. That's called addiction. Like you have an issue. And through my research and the self-work, I realized I was addicted to the bliss. I was addicted to the fresh new person, the fresh new start, the fresh new conversation, the fresh new, all of that, right? The way I implement it now, because I can't say, like I said, the molestation or anything like that was generational, but knowing that, the promiscuity, being lustful, being, I know that stuff lingers. And I just think about, I have to break it because I don't want my kids to have to deal with it. Right. I learned from my mother and my father how to harbor emotions and how to hoard emotions and hold stuff in and don't talk about it and don't express.
That's a generational cycle.
Yeah, you hide stuff, and then
secrets.
Yeah, you talking about being a church boy, now I'm a church kid. I was a praise and worship leader. Then I became the youth pastor. Then I became an associate minister, right? And so you're taught in leadership.
Yep.
There's some stuff you can't display that on the pulpit. You got to sweep that under the rug, and you got to hide that. You got to put on this face, and you got to, you put on and
got the church hat on, got the suit and tie on.
You gotta go.
Your home is
it's off limits. You can't bring that in here. I learned how to suppress stuff. I learned how to not talk about stuff, and that was the most detrimental lesson and visual aids I was getting in my life because I began to hold so much stuff in. That's something, I teach my boys, hey, let's talk. We have round tables. I have sessions with my boys because I want them to be more vocal about their feelings and know their feelings matter. And I think as men, that's a struggle because culturally, not as a Black man, as a man, period, culturally, we are not praised for being in tune with our emotions and our feelings. So when we get a safe space to do it, we're hesitant to use it because we're not being taught or praised to use it, right? And I think you got the ties of, oh, he just emotional, or he's sensitive, or he this and he that. And that's taboo for a man. Yeah. So if you have a man to be vulnerable and talk to you, like, you got to understand how long it took him to be vulnerable and to even
trust you enough, because men don't have a lot of trust. If they lost that trust, and I always tell people it starts with your parents. Yes. If you didn't have enough of trust as a man to, as you said, it took you to your 30s because you came from a generation of family where we don't talk about things that happen in our family. If so and so said this, you don't say nothing. Keep it to yourself. But when they don't feel like they can trust that woman that they're with, or that person that they're in love with, then it opens up a whole nother can of other issues.
Yeah.
I did a message on men need love too. And I had a couple women say, yeah, whatever, man, he ain't this. And but you don't understand what that man went through before you met him. You don't know 100%. What that person, who is that man before you met him. That's why I always used to tell my kids, especially my girls, be careful who you lay down with, because they just you don't know what you're creating and bringing into your home or what your life. So for you came from a generation of we don't talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So which kind of forced it where it took you to your 30s to finally be comfortable enough to say, okay, I want to tell my mom and dad this. I'm praying that they're going to receive me, they're going to embrace me, because there's this uncertainty, because you have a lot of people who don't get that back from their family. So for you, how freeing did that feel to the point where it is your journey, your assignment, because you're on assignment. You're on an assignment. This is your assignment, where your assignment is, hey, I came from a family that kept things to themselves, but I was able to freely tell them, and they was able to receive me like I wanted them to receive me. But how do you tell people that don't come from a background like you do?
Yeah. So one thing I can say, we didn't talk about emotions and feelings, but we talked about issues within the family, right? We had family meetings. We sat down and we had family meetings. We tapped in and stuff. And then when mom and dad would have, these explosive arguments, they would come and say, hey, this was happening. This was going on, when stuff, what happened in the marriage, they would talk. So I wasn't in an environment where it was like, no, you can't talk about that. You can't say that. What I saw was my parents not talk to each other for weeks. What I saw was my dad explode at times because he's been holding on all these emotions, and then it's a ticking time bomb. What I saw was my mother get upset and shut down and not talk and not speak and not say anything. That's what I'm talking about, like how I would shut down. And I'm quick. Let me rephrase that. I fight hard to not be quick to shut down, right? Because I know that's what got me divorced. I'm not going to repeat that. To the point I have to be mindful of how I do communicate and do talk, because now I want to talk so much. Sometimes I want to talk too quick, and I don't give my significant other, the lady I'm with now, I have to be mindful, because I want to talk right now. Like, let's get to it. Like, let's get this out right now. Let's go ahead and talk, and I have to give grace and understand everybody's not like that. So just because you suffered trauma and you've come to this recollection that you need to talk and you need to be more verbal, doesn't give you the right to force the conversation onto somebody, right? So to get back to your question, I would say you have to talk. Everything that you cannot talk about, the enemy can use against you. If he knows that you have a soft spot for that issue, if he knows that you can't openly talk about that issue, if he knows that you run away from conversations, you run away from trauma, you run away from all these things, that's the stuff he's going to use to get to you. And I have a saying, we have abandonment issues because we abandon issues. Jesus. We will rather run away from an issue instead of talking to somebody and getting to the root cause and moving on. We would rather sever ties from a relationship than to confront the issue and deal with it and work through it, or dead it because there's nothing to work on, right?
They still hold on to it. They
there's
gotta
nothing to hold on to. Yeah. And you don't know that until you face the situation. I was speaking at my alma mater, Winston-Salem State, and I had that revelation that popped in while I was speaking to the university choir. And I said, think about how many relationships that you have cut that could have been significant in your life because you would rather run away than to just have a conversation, right? So we have these abandonment issues because we don't want to talk about stuff. We don't want to be criticized. We don't want to be rebuked. We don't want to be told that our ish stinks. That we don't want to have to face the fact that we're not always right. We don't want to face the fact that we could be wrong. We don't want to face the fact that we need to be better in certain places in our life and certain areas in our life. We don't want to, I'm raising my hand. Look. We don't want to hear that stuff, right? And because we don't want to hear it, we would rather just not talk about it.
Sweep it up under the rug.
So I have developed a complex to say, I'm not running away from anything anymore. Mm-hmm. I'd rather face it. Yep. I'd rather hear it. I might be hurt. It might sting. I might even be mad. I might even get defensive. I probably am because I know Chris, right? I might even get defensive and have to check myself and say, right now you can't be defensive. You got to be quiet and you got to stomach this and you got to hear it. And you got to decide, do I want to be better or do I want to be average, right? Because there's a difference. And, the Bible tells us the wise man's, in Proverbs, the wise man wants rebuke or loves wisdom and loves rebuke and loves to be guided.
Yes.
You have to have that, and I think that you don't get that if you don't talk. I know your generational, curses, and I know your household didn't teach you how to talk. And that's why it's good to go get therapy. Get therapy. Sit on somebody's couch and get therapy. Learn how to talk. Learn how to communicate. And it is a ever learning process. Everybody's different.
It's going to be a lifelong process.
Yes,
because my big brother that I interviewed on my show about a couple months ago, he did a post the other day, and he said, especially for PK kids or people who are more into the church, because we don't realize how many people that are in the body of Christ, who are in the house of prayer, who are carrying all this hurt, all this pain. Because they're saying, I did a message, hurt people, broken people break other people because they don't know how to heal and get their healing from their own trauma. They're going to pass it on to the next person. He said, how can you be a pastor, a preacher, an apostle, an evangelist, a prophet, a teacher, and your own home is not in order? Your own home, you're out there sharing the gospel for the Lord. You're doing His work. You're sharing His word. You're healing and deliverance, and hopefully we go back to the revival service, because I promise you, I'm old school. I'm old school. I'm born and raised in church. I'm old school. Yes. I want to go back to revival services. I want to go back to healing and deliverance services. And how can you do that when you're out and you're getting all thinking you're saving all these souls, but in your home, it's chaos. Your home, as you said with your parents, they would go weeks without talking to each other. And if they would, it would be a big blow up. And then, your home is not, if your home is not right, not just saying the home that you live in, your heart is your home. Yes. If your home is not right, and then your home is not right, when you walk in the door as a man, because I always say, your man is supposed to be your king of the castle. Your man is the king of the castle. He's the head of your household. But if you make that household so unbearable where he doesn't want to be there anymore, how, as a man, for you, when you were going through the things that you were going through, and obviously it looks like you learned your lesson now because now you're in a new relationship and you're trying to, figure this out. How is you as a man say, okay, God done gave me another chance. I done got another relationship. How can I communicate to her to say, hey, babe, the world's giving me enough drama. The world's on my shoulders. I got to be the provider. I got to be the performer. I got to be the protector. When I come home, can you help me be able to release that and let it just be you and I? Yeah. So I won't release it because, again, as you said, now you're the 30-something-year-old person healing from your 11-year-old trauma.
Yeah, and I think I'm still learning how to do that.
Okay.
Right. That's we're not married. And of course the end goal, like that is my wife. So I know that. So it's about being able to effectively communicate. Like I had to learn her, she had to learn me, right? Because I ain't perfect. I ain't gonna ever sit here and say I
none
got
of us are
my stuff. Do you understand me? She got to deal with me. Okay. Right.
All of me.
I want to make that perfectly clear, right?
People think people in the church are so perfect and we're not.
Yeah. No. I gets on her nerves. Okay. I know I do, right? I know I do. Because I have my ways, I have my things like everybody does, right? So I think the most important thing is learning and studying your partner and how you need to talk to them and how you need to communicate. I know I can't be a mind reader, but there is absolutely some things I'm supposed to learn and just kind of know, right? And I think if you
wasn't taught that, how can you know?
Right. And that's another thing. I saw the marriage, because my parents divorced and split up when I was 23. Okay. So for 23 years of my life, and then I found out some stuff, some troubles and some things that was happening and how they were trying to reconcile, and my parents are phenomenal. Everybody's parents got their stuff, right?
Yes.
But they still my mama and my daddy. Right?
There you go.
So I still call my mommy sometimes.
Yeah,
right?
I still do it. I'm 51 years old. I still do it. My mom's like, really? Oh, you go back to the kid version. I'm like, yeah.
So I realized there was some things I learned from their relationship that was not healthy that I thought was. And so I had to eat the meat and spit out the bone, right? So in this second opportunity, I'm taking the things that I didn't do right the first time because of what I learned, right? And I'm trying to reverse those things and not be that person and not be that way. And sometimes it's trial and error. And sometimes it's very frustrating, right? When you try something, it don't work. You're like, that don't work. You try something, that don't work either. Okay, all right. And then I learned I have to speak in her language. I can't always speak in my language. So I have to learn what her language is, because if I want to get a point across to her, I bear the burden of the point getting across. So I can't say it the way I want to say it, because if I don't say it for it to be received, then I just did nothing but make the situation even worse. So I have to learn, okay, how do I need to say this so it can be received in the right way? And sometimes that conversation goes great. Sometimes that conversation go to the left. Sometimes the conversation is the best thing that ever happened in the world, right? But you have to be willing to be wrong. You got to be willing to be wrong and being okay with, okay, I messed that one up. All right, let me try another way, right? You got to be willing. And then you also have to check the ego and the pride at the door. I couldn't do that, right? I couldn't do that. And I'm learning to do that now, to say, okay, Chris, shut up and listen. right?
Right.
And listen, and it's a journey, but I think
It's a
we
two-way street. It's a two-way street.
100%.
Because my question to you, my other question, I'm gonna go rewind again back to the other question. We don't know how to learn that person. Are you at a place now where you're learning her like she's learning you? Like I'm saying, not just learning as far as her as you and her, but learning her past.
Yes.
Because a lot of people don't, when they get in a relationship, honeymoon phase, boo boo, you're my baby. I love you, we're gonna be together. But they don't take the time to learn that person's past so they can learn how to deal with them now in the present. And perfect is going to be the future. And it's going to be you and them as God ordained, because we all get marriages, and sometimes God don't ordain all these marriages.
Yes.
God don't ordain all these relationships, and we just jump into it because we got our own personal reasons. Are you going back to her past to learn her now present?
And I think that's one of the greatest things that we have in our relationship. Like, she know about my marriage, my failures, there's nothing nobody can run up on here and say about me that she don't know. And I feel it's the exact same. I know her pains and her hurts. I know what happened in her past. I know what traumas and stuff that she had to go through. And I even, we both, let me say that, we both know what traumas we're still working through.
Right.
Right. And how we have to be mindful and sensitive to certain things and approaching certain conversations, and how to be mindful of to think about, okay, how do I need to say this? And I think that's the thing where a lot of relationships fail. If you are my significant other, there should be a significant difference in the way I talk to you and other people.
Right. That's why he said it's supposed to be a 3-strand cord. God, you, and them. It's not supposed to be God, you, them, and everybody else. Oh, we had some technical difficulty. He should be coming back. Ooh, that means the Lord is moving. This conversation is getting great. Satan not happy right now, but he should be turning right back shortly. He has some technical difficulty. Guys, this conversation is getting good. I hope you're sharing with another friend, to another friend, to another friend, especially to you men. I know you men have been through a lot, and a lot of the women don't take the time to learn you as a man, to learn, as this young man right here is saying, his new bride to be, she's knowing of his past. It's okay if that person really loves you, and you said they love you, and they said they love you back, or whatever, and you love them. You should be able to be comfortable to be able to share, be vulnerable to say, hey, babe, this is what I went through in my childhood. And if she's your woman, if she's your wife, she should be able to receive that, because he should be jumping back on shortly. She should be able to receive that where where she can be able to help you heal and you help her heal. It should not be a one-sided thing, or you down on that man because he done went through some things, or make him feel like, oh, that's what happened to you, so that means you like this, or you might be like this, or maybe like that. Okay, he's coming back on. Oh, hold on. I'll put you back on the stage.
I'm sorry.
Finish. No, you're good. I was giving a little trinket. I was sharing with the audience that women, be more receptive of a man is sharing their past with you, because it takes a lot for them to share their past with you. And if you're supposed to be their wife, because a lot of women are walking around the title say, I'm their wife, they my man, but not really doing the wifely duties, not being the responsible wife, because we're supposed to help them heal, just like they're supposed to help us. They're our strength. They're our protectors, our providers, but they need us as well. And if they're not comfortable enough to be able to share that with their significant other, when they lay in the bed and they say, babe, I gotta talk to you about some things, and you as a woman not receiving that, and instead of you receiving it, you downing them, or you're making them feel like he's less than, how can you really be saying, I'm looking for a man, my man, and the man you keep running them away because you're not ready to receive all of him. You want the pretty version of him. You want the clean up version of him. You want him to be, he a breadwinner. That's all I need him to be. Oh, he know how to be good in bed. That's all I need him to be. He out there fighting. That's what I need. Right. A man is more than that. A man, He created Adam and Eve. He didn't create Adam and Eve just for those particular roles. They had more roles, just as that when they sinned, because they were disobedient. And women, we be disobedient. And men, men be disobedient, but it's 100%. More because the women are disobedient. The women are not listening. If Eve would have listened to Adam instead of talking to that dude over there, that serpent, that snake, She wouldn't have had the problems she had and gave us those problems. And if Adam was like, hey, don't be over here talking to them. You're gonna be over here with me. We wouldn't be where we at right now.
I'm so glad you said that, because that, I think, is the key. They both were not doing their jobs. Adam should have been with Eve, protecting her, talking to her, right? And Eve shouldn't have been focused on the lack, but the abundance they were already around.
You had a whole garden. All he said was don't eat from this tree.
I just saw this the other day, and I thought it was so dynamic. They were talking about the tree that they ate from was in the middle of the garden, which means they had to walk by all the abundance that they had,
flowers, the birds,
everything they had to get to what they lacked. And because the focus went to what they lacked, they sacrificed their abundance to pay attention to what they lacked. But to go to your point, Adam didn't do his job either.
No.
So in relationships, right, we have to be willing to accept, okay, you know what, you're right. I'm not on my job, and I need to do better. And and I'm speaking to self, right? Like you can't be so defensive. And this is something I'm intentionally working on. You cannot be so defensive, and you have to be willing to say, okay, I hear you, honey. I hear you, and be able to say that without saying, I hear you, but I'm just saying, if you didn't hear, babe, I hear you, but you didn't do this. No, sometimes you just got to say, I hear you.
Look, I know I've been working on, God, right on my tongue, right? Because, we women, we pop off, especially us black women, we ready to pop off. But that's what I was going, I said before you got back on, I said, we walking around saying, my man, oh, he's my husband, oh, I got papers on him, but you're not loving him the way he's supposed to be loved. You're not honoring him and respecting him the way he's supposed to be honored, respected, because he said, who I put together, no man shall separate, no man shall divide. So it goes back to, if I didn't put it together, you're going to have chaos.
Yeah.
If I didn't put you together, you're going to have issues. You're going to have up and down. But if I put you together, even if you have those problems, because I know who your heart is and I know what her heart is, I know y'all going to work it out and y'all going to fix it and you're going to get back to where you're supposed to be. But everybody's too busy worried about a title. Everybody's too worried about, oh, he's mine. First of all, he doesn't belong to nobody. He belongs to the guy. He belongs to the guy. 100%. She don't belong to nobody. She belongs to him first. He just lent them to you. Like he lends us the kids. He gives us kids. He lends them to us. They're not ours. Because that means now you're idolizing that person. You're worshiping that person. And he said, thou shalt not have no other idols of God before me.
Right.
So with you, you're learning, you're putting in that work. Most men are afraid to do that because they got those women that, oh my gosh, I should want to do it. And then if you mess up, they still in your face and your ear. Oh, see, you did this. See, I know you wasn't this, you not that. They're not taking out that time to say, okay, something is missing. Why are you doing this? What? Why are you out there messing in the streets? Why are you out here doing this? Let me learn you.
Yeah.
And if a lot of couples don't realize you're in a relationship with somebody, you don't know their background. You don't know their drama. You don't know their trauma. You don't know their history. And if you don't want to take the time out to do that, how can you say this is we 10 toes down, ain't nobody can break us up? Because look at Adam and Eve. Adam thought he had Eve. Eve thought he had Adam. We 10 toes down. That snake was like, nah, come on here, girl.
Right.
Let's be us by the being. And look what happened, which is happening now in a lot of relationships.
Yeah.
So you now learning because you're on this learning journey. Again, I just want you to know. You said you're 39, right? I'm 51. I'm just now learning. I mean, I was already on it. Even when I wrote my book, I was already on it, but I'm really learning it now. How do you share this when you're out ministering and you're on your assignment, sharing this with other men and women? Because I know you're speaking to women and men, and have it where you're in couples where you're saying, hey, boo, hey, dude, this is what you got to do. How do you do that? And bring that to them where they can receive it comfortably. Because even though you said a lot of us need counseling, we do. A lot of us need therapy, we do. But if you're not ready to receive what that counselor, that therapist is going to give you, you're gonna walk out the door still with the same issues.
Yeah. I tell my story.
Okay.
Because one thing you cannot deny is experience, right? And when I tell you how it messed up, and how I tell you how I failed and what I didn't do right, I think there's two levels to that. I think people relate to transparency, right? And then I also think it softens I won't even say rebuke, it softens the correction that you may give to that person, because I can come to, it's different for me to come up to you and say, man, you need to get your stuff together, man. You tripping, like you talking to her crazy, you out here in these streets, like, bro, you lame, bro. You need to get it together. Then me coming to you and say, hey, listen, man, let me talk to you. When I was married, bro, like, I was having conversations I didn't need to have. I was focusing my attention on women, and I didn't need to be doing that. And that led me to divorce. And because of that, I have 3 sons where now, even though I'm able to see them 1 week on, 1 week off, like, I'm not in the household with them. So now they're in, a situation where they're, in different households with their parents. Like, think about your actions, bro. Because I'm telling you, like, I'm living proof that if you don't deal with this trauma and you don't deal with your issues, you're setting yourself up for failure in your marriage. Like, you need to go talk to her, like, tell her what's going on, tell her what you're dealing with. Even if you don't feel like it's a safe space, like, you still got to try, because I didn't do that. And because I didn't do that, life turned drastically. There's a different tone. And there's a different hearing for the right person, right? Because all that stuff doesn't work. And I had somebody say, well, if you would have had it, all right, how would you do it again? Like, well, listen, I would never want my children to grow up in a 2-parent household the way they are now. But I also believe God can turn anything around, and all things work together for the good of them who love the Lord.
All things are possible.
I totally believe the person I'm with now, my significant other, we are evenly yoked. And because we are evenly yoked, and we have a whole different sense of communication because of what I've learned and because of what I've done. Like, now I believe the relationship we're going to build, the covenant and the marriage we're going to have, like, my kids can still see daddy happy, and the bonus mom happy in a marriage, and still grow up in a household that consumes family. Right?
More people. Yeah, he gave you more people. The kids will have more of a village. The kids will have more of a village
because I learned how to be better. It started with me learning that. So when I talk to men, when I talk to couples, when I talk and minister or teach, like, I always talk about my story. I always are very transparent about my wrongdoings, what I did wrong, the trauma I had to face, and everything, because I just believe being transparent and saying those things and taking that approach is just a little bit more effective.
Yeah, I learned, again, I tell you, I was out there in them streets.
We all were.
And I learned, it took a long time to realize when you have a spiritual connection, when you're in a relationship with somebody, that's a totally different connection. That means that's a God connection. Yes. I remember every relationship was a mental, was emotional, was a physical. But when I got in a relationship where I have a spiritual connection, where it's like all the pieces of the puzzle fit, and they fit in the right places, and they're moving so smoothly, and they're moving so, it's like, how do we meet each other? Like, where did this come from? For you, because it sounds like that's what you have with the person you have with now. You have that spiritual connection. On the spiritual side, do you share more of your spiritual journey with the people that you're speaking to, or you share more of the carnal, natural side? Because having a spiritual connection when you're in a relationship with somebody, I promise you, taking it from somebody who knows, that's a phenomenal, one-of-a-kind type of relationship that no man, no woman can break, no matter what they're doing or how they're working. Do you share that more with the people that you're on your assignment?
Yeah, it's equal. I share both sides because without the spiritual, we can pack this thing up and go on home because it don't matter anyway, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that's the most important side, being evenly yoked, right? Being able to, be spiritual, connected, strongly connected spiritually, to where you're praying for me, I'm praying for you. We're praying together. We're focusing on tackling spiritual issues together, because at the end of the day, this covenant is a ministry, and the enemy is going to attack that ministry as much as he possibly can. So you have to prioritize the spiritual side of it too. And I think that's I think in conversations, depending on what we're talking about, it could go strongly to the carnal side, or to the physical side, or that side, and then it could go strongly to the spiritual side too. And I think that's a muscle that continues to be built throughout the relationship. And because we are not married, we're actually on a journey of seeking, even more wise counsel from individuals that have been married for a plethora, individuals that are newly married, but we see the success in their marriage, right? And then marriages that's been 20, 30 years, and just gaining knowledge, on how to do it and how to do it correctly. And do it the right way, and getting perspective on, okay, how do you handle these situations? How do you handle these situations? Because it's a forever learning journey. Before my grandfather passed away, I think it was their 60th anniversary, my grand or 50th, one or the other. But it was my grandparents' anniversary, and my grandpa said, grandson, I've known your grandma for over 60 something years. He said, and I learned something new about her every day.
Yeah.
And I thought about that. I was like, man, he's known my grandmother for over 60 something years and was married for over 50 something years, and said, I still learn something new about her every day. So you got to wake up knowing that it could be something new that I discovered. And giving each other spaces to be safe in conversation, and to talk and freely, be able to talk and be able to have, tough conversations. That's one thing I pride my relationship on, man. We have had some tough conversations, right?
Like you probably start crying and the whole nine, and you're like, look,
it's been tough.
It's okay, it's you and I. We can do that.
And be angry and mad at each other. It get heated, but we always find a way to come to a common ground.
That's it.
And that's the thing. Okay. Somehow this thing got in. How are we going to get it out?
That's it.
And it's not me against you. It's us against the issue. Or sometimes it's not even the issue. It's us talking so we on the same page.
That's it.
And when you open that door for that effective communication, I think and that doesn't happen if you're not spiritually connected either. Now, if you're not spiritually connected, you can't have those kind of conversations either.
Amen.
One thing I've learned, God will deal with me how I talk to her before I come to her, or after I've made a mistake in the conversation. So without that, you're spinning in circles. So
that means your heart is open. Your heart and your mind is clear.
Yes, and that's so important. It's so important.
So important. So YP, what does YP stand for?
So YP stands for youth pastor. What happened when
I was like, no, Lord, I will wait for him to say it out loud, because that was a revelation. I said, for youth pastor. That's all I can see.
People ask me that all the time, because now I'm not a youth pastor now, but I still go YP. And what happened was, at my father's church, when I was the current youth pastor, one of the ladies that used to, type up the sermons and prepare stuff for service, she said, YP, I got your stuff together. I was like, YP. She was like, yeah, it just feels weird calling you youth pastor. So I just like YP better. She didn't know at the time. Yeah, she didn't know at the time I created.
Confirmation.
I was going to my or creating my company, YP Motivations, Your Power Motivations, and I was like, YP Thomas, YP Motivations has a little ring to
Bonnie
it.
do it. Bonnie do it.
That's and then I wrote my book, and I wrote my book under the author name as YP Thomas. And then people when I moved to Charlotte, and people started introducing me to other people as YP. So depending on where you know me from, you got 3 different names, and then it just took off. And from a social media and speaking and being an author standpoint, I just go by YP, and it stands for Youth Pastor. I'm not currently a youth pastor, but that is what the YP
stands for. It just had to stand for youth pastor because I can't. Because he already gave me his real name, so I was like, must stand for youth pastor. Right. So, do you have any events that's coming up, or any speaking engagements that's just coming up that someone come and see you speak at? Any upcoming things that are going on in your life right now? Because I have a slate. So I started my podcast about 2 years ago.
Okay.
Thank you, God. God's grace. So 2023, it was all about me. 2023, it was all about you. Yeah. I don't know when you ended your chapter from your children's mom. 2024, more in store. So 2024, more in store means from 2023, you had to learn who you are. You had to heal, you had to grow, you had to evolve to who he wants you to be, because we all trying to be stubborn and we thinking we running from our calling. And unfortunately, we can't run from our calling because everybody don't know right now. We in judgment. So he like, look, either you get right, or I'm gonna make you get right,
Absolutely.
or you're gonna be where you're not supposed to be. Absolutely. 2024, more in store. You still on that journey of figuring out who you are, learning who you are. And now we in 2025. And so my statement for 2025 is 2025, you're still alive. Yeah. But there's a lot of people this year, as it was last year, may not make it for this year. And by God's grace, you are still alive, YP.
Yes.
Do you have any events where someone can say, hey guys, I'm still here. I'm still standing strong. I'm sharing my journey. I'm sharing my testimony. Here where you can catch me at.
Yeah, so I'm speaking at a couple of schools. I actually have a baccalaureate service for, I can't even remember the high school name. I got to look at the calendar. But I know there. I'm speaking at Dorothy J. Vaughn Elementary School for their graduation service. And then I have a engagement at West Cabarrus High School where I'll be speaking for their signing day for their kids. And then there's a youth group that just invited me to speak in their luncheon in May. I know that's May the 18th. I'll be speaking there. And then you can catch me on all my platforms, man. I try to do something at least 2 times, 3 times a week. Of course, I get busy, so sometimes I don't post it. But on social media, here on Facebook, it'd be YP Thomas. On TikTok, it's YPT _3. That's on TikTok. And then on Instagram, it's YP _Thomas. And I try to just spread motivation. I do, life coaching and one-on-ones and things of that nature. And then as the opportunities come in to speak, I'm always willing and ready, to be able to encourage, inspire, and motivate the masses. So those are some of the dates I have coming up. Nothing big or specifically to me, but, of course, speaking to schools like I usually do, and imparting into the youth and trying to encourage, inspire them as much as I possibly can to recognize their power and simply go be great.
So if you have one more last thing that you want to share with the world, something that's going to inspire, empower, and motivate another man, another woman, but mainly talk to the men, something that you can give them to give them encouragement to say, hey, bruh, I know where you are. I may not know your story. I may not know your journey. You have anything you can share?
And it's on my shirt. And I wore this for a reason because I felt like this, I might have an opportunity, right? Nothing grows in comfort. Mm-hmm. Nothing. If you look at nature in itself, you have seed time and harvest, right? When the seeds are planted, you have to harvest that ground. You got to till the soil. You got to work it. You got to water it. It's got to be in the sunlight. It's got to be. So it's not comfortable, and I think we seek comfort. And that's a very, very dangerous place to be because You don't know who you are until you get uncomfortable. You don't know who you are until you tested and you tried and you had to scratch and claw and bite and climb out the mud puddle. You don't know. You know, in 2021, I started the year with COVID. 2 weeks later, my marriage blew up and I was asked to leave the house. 3 weeks after that, my grandfather passed away. 2 months after that, I had a stroke. I went to sleep on May the 5th. Went to sleep May the 4th, woke up May the 5th, and I couldn't talk. I could have died. Had a stroke in my sleep, but I woke up, right? 6 months later, I didn't work for 6 months. I get to work, and 6 months later, I'm hit with all kinds of tax fees and all. I'm working and getting paid $233 every 2 weeks because I had so many wage garnishments. After the wage garnishments were done, 2 weeks after that, I got a notice that I would be laid off or I could resign because my sales wasn't what they needed to be. So you're talking about a year of pure hell, but it produced the absolute greatest man.
Yes.
That I have ever been.
Make you work, make you stronger, wiser, and better. Yes.
So to the brothers that's going through that, man, just remember, you're growing. If you are not uncomfortable, you don't have a lot of growth. But when you are uncomfortable, you are growing. And I have a saying that I say all the time that I got from a friend. I'm uncomfortable, but I'm not out of my comfort zone. And when you can speak that, you can remain knowledgeable. You can apply wisdom and discernment to your situation, and you can learn exactly what you need to learn so it can produce the greatest version that you have ever been of yourself. Nothing grows in comfort. And I say this to everybody, everywhere I go. Whatever you seek to accomplish and whatever you seek to do, do yourself a favor. Don't be average. Go be great.
Amen. Amen. Well, guys, you heard it from the man himself, YP Thomas. Nothing but trinkets, I promise you. Check him out. Check him out on Facebook. I caught him on TikTok. That's how he ended up on my show. He's on Instagram. He ain't really doing much on his LinkedIn.
No, I gotta get on it, man. There's so many platforms. Lord have mercy.
The same thing. I'm thinking about letting one go so I can get the other one. I'm still seeing what that man doing. But anyway, check him out. YP Thomas. Guys, girls, ladies, men. I hope you are watching this. I hope you take his fruits of his labor to heart and hear his heart, from his heart to your heart, because you are not alone. You're not alone. I tell people all the time, men are not perfect, but God is the perfect man. So God is the perfect man, and he's not even a man, he's a spirit. He placed his perfect son on this earth to take care of us, to love us, to guide us, to get us to where we need to be. Yes. But when you hear from a man who's been through trouble, been through trauma, been through struggles, and he's standing to tell his story, that should tell you, hey, it's not over. It's not over till he says it's over. That's and right. All things are possible. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook as Good Morning Black People. Check out my YouTube channel. Share with a friend to another friend to another friend. This will be live on Spotify. This will be on iHeart, Apple Music, Google Play.
Gotta love it.
All that. Look, don't sleep on it, sister.
Gotta love it. I see you.
Look, so check me out. Good Morning Black People. It's your guest, Morgan Reese. Have a blessed week. Have a blessed weekend. Be blessed. YP, don't go nowhere. Have an amazing day. This is your girl, Morgan Reese, of Good Morning Black People. Have a blessed day, and we'll talk soon.